If I was hurt, would it be the same? I wonder why. 'Cause if you drop the rain, like the one before, and you just can't catch your own. You just can't catch your own. I got in the car, turned the ignition on. I sat in the clothes on the line. 'Cause it made it feel just like an hour past. Every hour crazy day. Every hour crazy day. In the sky, where it's stop to wonder why. Oh, the sky is so bright. Where you and I will go again. If I was hurt, would it be worth to sit and wonder why? 'Cause if you drop the rain, fall like the one before, and you just can't catch tomorrow. You just can't catch tomorrow. On the ground, where I stop to look around. Trees and bones and all the scared. Take it all in. in the summertime. Apples.
Good evening, everybody. We've got a lot of questions already. I love it. I saw somebody said they've been looking forward to this all day, man. That made my day right there. I've been looking forward to it all day as well, except for when we were catching fish. That was, in my mind, wasn't really on similar. But hopefully you enjoyed music. Like I said, every night I'll start with some music in that slideshow, show you kind of what we've been up to. Thanks, Kev. That's the Underhills. Oh, so a couple of questions real quick. Small streams. Most of those I'll get to. Blacktail Bow Company. Speaking of Blacktail Bow Company, if anybody on here is a bow shooter, go check that company out. You will not believe their bows. And they also are making Hexagram Fly Rods again. So probably some of you on here are familiar with well, I would imagine everybody on here is familiar with the movie River Runs Through It. And in River Runs Through It, they wanted to have rods that looked like bamboo, but they wanted rods that cast like graphite. So Hexagraph was a company that literally put together a rod that looked and had the shape, a hexagonal shape of bamboo, but it was made out of graphite. And the guys down at Blacktail Bow Company bought those guys last year, and they're starting to produce those again soon. So that'll be pretty cool. It's a neat rod. But his bows, I can tell you too, are pretty unbelievable. Really awesome bows. All right, let me go back. I know I had a couple of questions. Hey, how are you, Jeff? What up, Preston? How are you, Joe? Russ, you made my day, man. I've been looking forward to this too. So what we're going to do tonight, like we have been. What's up, Eric? The sparrow. I'm never going to forget that as long as I live. So what we're going to do tonight is start with a fly. And this fly is called the leaper lizard. A lot of people call it the leaping lizard, but it's actually leaper lizard. That I know of, it's taken 25 species of freshwater fish. I designed it for smallmouth primarily, but it has taken, between Ron Kilmer over in Northern Kentucky Fly Fishers and myself, we've come up with, just the two of us, have come up with 25 different species. Pretty amazing. So it's, I'll get started. It's a pretty simple fly. And it incorporates some of those same materials that the last fly, the Hex Sparrow, had. So what we've got is a 9672 Mustad size 6. Same hook that we used on the Hex Sparrow. So 9672. We've got uni-thread 6/0 tan. I do this fly in 2 different colors. Going to be the tan are yellow, size medium, lead eyes. All right. We're going to take a drop of blue capped Loctite gel. This stuff is killer. So we're just going to put a little drop of blue Loctite gel on there. We're going to take our eye. We're going to figure 8. But the first thing we're going to do is 2 loose wraps over the eye, over that yellow eye. We're going to pull it down tight. Then we're going to take the next one. We're going to go 2 or 3 the other way. And then we're going to figure 8 a couple times. Now, it's pretty locked in there, but we don't want it pretty locked in. We want it locked in totally. So we're going to take that Loctite gel. We're going to put a little bit on the top. We're going to put a little bit on the bottom. And we are going to crisscross wrap, figure 8 wrap, and we're going to turn it over and do it some more. And that is it. So here's how I tie these flies. Like I said the other night, if I'm going to tie a fly, I tie a lot of the same pattern. So what I do with these, because we don't like to work around wet Loctite gel with feathers, is I do a day's worth, which for me is about 80 or 100 of these at a time. So the first 2 steps that I do, I put the eyes on. Next step is I take 0.30 lead and I wrap 18 wraps of that. If you're counting it, will be 17 or 18. Hopefully nobody's counting. Wrap it from the tail right up to the eye. Okay, I do 80 of these to 100 of these at a time, and I put them down to dry. Because again, I don't want to be working with wet. Think, Zach, you're gonna love it in a little bit too, buddy. I don't want to be working with feathers and wet Loctite. So here's one that's already dried. So again, when you do these, when you tie any fly, take the time to tie a dozen at least. All right, and let those suckers dry so they're not getting your fly all messed up because the Loctite's still wet. All right, we're going to take that thread, start it back. This is an important step. Anytime you wrap lead on a body, you want to make sure you cover that lead very well. If you don't, it will spin and it will tear your fly apart. So if that's been happening to you and you're trying to figure out why your flies are prematurely falling apart, that could be why. So we wrap that lead real well. We take it all the way back to the eye. I'm sorry, to the bend. We're right back with these feathers, the tan Grizzly Marabou. All right. Now, you're going to have all sorts of different feathers in those bags. So some will look like that. Some will look like this. What I do is I sort those. Take the time to sort them into two bags, one being tail. Tail might look like this. Not quite as good of a feather. This is a perfect collar feather. So we're going to take the tail feather. We're going to tie it on back here in the back. Wrap it up to the lead and snip it off. And I want another tail feather. That's a good one. What we're looking for in a tail is just these small pieces. All right, so we've got our tail. Now we're going to take Pumpkin, Crystal Flash, Chenille. So Pumpkin, Crystal Flash, Chenille is next. Again, we're going to pull a little bit off the end, or in this case, a whole lot, because this is a brand new one. All right, we're going to tie that into the back. We are going to wrap the thread just up onto the lead wire. And then we are going to take our brown crazy legs. How are you, John? Hope you guys are having a good night. All right, one crazy leg. We're going to lay it across. And I get this question a lot. How do you wrap legs so they don't spin and they don't move around? Here's the key. Push it, put it straight across. Take your thread and very lightly put it on the rubber right in the middle and pull it tight. It's locked. Then do a crisscross. Figure 8. You don't need a bunch because that rubber is soft and it will pinch it. Take it up just behind the eye, maybe 1/8 of an inch back from the eye. You're going to take your other crazy leg. Again, nice and easy right across there. And you're going to wrap and pinch. That pressure that will keep that leg in place isn't this pressure. It's a soft wrap and it's pulling down on your bobbin. That's the pressure we're looking for. All right. I told you the other night I don't use my rotary very often, but this is one pattern I do use the rotary. The reason for that is this Crystal Flash Chenille is really delicate, and if you are moving it with your hands a lot, it tends to fray and fall apart. So I use the rotary, and we're just going to work our way around these rubber legs. Take your time. Don't pinch them down because that movement of those rubber legs adds a whole lot to the movement of this fly. And we're going just behind the eyes. Just behind the eyes, tie it off. All right. And snip. Now, we're going to take what we hope anyway are two real nice collars. So collar you want to look like that. I don't know if you can see it real well, but you want a nice full feather. We're going to pull that back, and we're going to tie that in by the tip. Let's take 2 of them on this, so make sure it's nice and full. So again, we're going to pull it back, And we're going to tie that in by the tip. Now we're going to extend in front of the eyes. So now we're between the yellow eyes and the eye of the hook with the thread. There I go, licking my hands again. It's okay, I just disinfected. We're going to pull a little bit of those fibers back. We grab both of those at the same time. So both feathers. We're going around once. We're going around twice. Now, let me tilt this so you can see. I'm pulling the feather between the eyes at that point. Okay, pull it between the eyes. Wrap it. Pull this up. Snip these one at a time. Leave some fluff there. Don't worry about getting that clear. I like it fluffy in the front. The messier, the better for this fly. And we whip finish. That's it. Leaper lizard. That fly, like I said at the beginning, it was designed for smallmouth. But as far as I know, between two of us, just Ron Kilmer over Northern Kentucky Fly Fishers and myself, we've taken 25 different species of freshwater fish on that, including an almost 40-inch pike. We've caught steelhead. We've caught catfish. About everything that swims in fresh water so far we've caught on that thing. Here's what I love. Somebody mentioned it the other day. Matt Maraney, if you're on there, you mentioned it. And it's so cool to me that I can look on here and how many of you folks know each other from the river, from fishing with us, and how many of you give each other a hard time and joke on the river and joke over the internet. And, you know, when I started this business and then Jake came on almost immediately, you know, my goal was to create a place where anglers could call home without a fly shop, but just the you know, the family of home. And man, watching you guys talk and give each other a hard time, and seeing everybody on the river give each other a hard time and talk and joke and clap for each other and cheer for each other, and man, it's to me that says I don't care how many fish we catch or how busy or not busy we are. To me, that says it all. Man, that's awesome. And somebody called me the other day, and Matt Rainey called me yesterday, and we talked about that. And he's like, man, it's like, it's so cool that you guys can sit and everybody knows each other, and it's really cool. So Keith, if I have what I look at and I say it's a, Keith asked, do you always use two feathers for the collar? So if I find the perfect collar feather, then sometimes I'll only use one. But normally I use two. I like that thing to be fluffy. Just got home from fishing. Joe said he caught largemouth, crappie, and bluegill on the leaper lizard today. I love it, man. That's awesome. I was on the river today and we were talking about the leaper lizard. It's just a cool fly, and it catches fish. It just does. All right. Any questions about fly tying before we move over to the other part? All right. Okay. Eric asked what color tail and collar on the olive body. So I think if I remember correctly, the olive one is what is on YouTube. So if you go to our YouTube channel, we have this fly on our YouTube channel. It's step by step, shows you exactly. It's a little more high production than this. The olive one is this, Eric. It is a bright orange body, same color legs, but the tail and the collar are olive. And Doug, those are the two colors I tie it in. Doug asked, what other colors do you tie it in? We tie it in tan and pumpkin, and then we tie it in olive and hot orange. Those are the two colors. I've never really bothered to use it in other colors, but I know Ron Kilmer has, and Ron's used it in purple. He's used it in all sorts of different colors. Joe Cruz, you might know better than me what colors Ron has it in, but he has it in a lot of different colors. He loves talking about catching trout on it and in the color purple, like, you know, just eating it up. So, but yeah, those are the two colors mainly that I tie it in. And the reason I tie that fly in those colors is to imitate our crawdads, and that's what we're imitating with that fly as a crawdad, which we'll talk a little bit more about here in a second. So, all right, no more questions on tying specifically. Then we'll get started on the on the program. Give me a second to move everything over. Court says, yeah, Court says he learned to tie that from YouTube video. Yeah. So if you're over on YouTube, it's on YouTube. I know that. That's one that we've got up there. We don't have a ton of flies up there. To be honest with you, I'm pretty secretive about most of my patterns, but that one is up there. And the one we're going to tie tomorrow night is up there as well. So I guess I just let the cat out of the bag on that. Tomorrow night we're going to do a trout fly, probably the best trout fly I've ever come up with, and it's called the Irish Rover. So it's a really cool little stone fly. And you can tie it in all sorts of different colors to imitate different stone flies. But all right, let me get these moved over and we'll get rolling. Court, you're the man. All right, YouTube guys, I will have a little hard time. I'll sneak around, check out your questions, but I won't be able to answer them quite as quickly because I'm not going to spend the whole time around the front. The text will be backwards for the YouTube guys because it's not a backwards facing camera. So, all right. So, probably everybody on here knows, but in case you don't, my name's Dustin Harley. I guide for Ripple Guide Service. I started Ripple Guide Service in 1990. Primarily guide northern Indiana and southwest Michigan. I spent years and years guiding in Montana as well. Craig, we'll get to that, buddy. Craig asked what fly line we use for that. We'll get to that. I'll show you exactly what we use on that. All right. We're going to start tonight a little differently. And Zach, hopefully you're still on there. I wanted to highlight tonight an organization that we have a lot of respect for, and an organization that we have a lot of use for, and an organization that I would love to see everybody on here get involved with, and that is Project Healing Waters. Project Healing Waters, if you aren't familiar with it, go look that up on the internet as soon as we get off here tonight, look up Project Healing Waters. But I'll give you a quick rundown. Waters is an organization that helps veterans work through physical, emotional strain and injuries through fly fishing and through fly tying and through rod building. And there is nothing cooler that I've ever done in all my guiding. Nothing. And I've caught some awesome fish, as you've seen in these programs, and you'll see again tonight and in the next 2 nights. There's nothing cooler in career than work with Project. Here's the best part of Project Healing. $5 million a year. Time. And they're looking in your expertise and what you will, unbelievable amount from the veterans coming to you. Part may be how much you learn about yourself, and I mean it's an unbelievable experience. Or maybe right now, go do it. I don't care. Turn me off. Go look up Project Healing Waters. It is an I tell you how thankful I am to be involved with them. It changes your life. It really does. It's an unbelievable experience. Smallmouth bass on the Joe. Typically, what we're doing fishing smallies May to September. It can be pushed. We can already be catching smallmouth on the Joe, and we can easily catch fish later into the year. The reason we do it May to September is because it is bracketed by our salmon and steelhead season. So for the most part, it's our off salmon and steelhead species, and we guide a ton for smallmouth. So here's where we guide, in case you don't know, is the St. Joe River. So right here at the mile marker 63, That's where Twin Branch Dam is. At that point, there's a dam with no fish ladder. So that's as far as the salmon and steelhead can get. It's about right there. Steelhead and salmon can't get above there any further. Smallmouth can. It's a great smallmouth fishery above there. Yeah, Zach just said anyone that wants to get with Project Healing Waters can email Zach. And his email's right there. And Zach does a great job with Project Healing Waters. Most large cities nowadays with the VA have a Project Healing Waters. The ones I know of for sure in our area, Cincinnati, Chicago, Indianapolis, all have Project Healing Waters. If anyone's on here from Louisville, I'm not positive. Do anyone on here from Derby City that can tell me whether they do or not? I'm not sure if Louisville does or not. But it's a great organization. So St. Joe, that's primarily where I'm guiding my smallmouth, is on the St. Joe. On a very look, what I can't wait for is smallmouth life being back to some sort of guide, and that's going to be smallmouth and pike and trout season. I think that the smallmouth was made for a fly rod. Is because number one, no other fish for their size. Hands down, for their size, the best. Number two, they take a fly readily. They're easy to catch on a fly. In fact, if you have a spin fishing buddy that you want to get involved in fly fishing, outfish them 3-to-1. It's catch compared to spin fishing. What they eat off the surface. That's the other best. Mention that they're gluttonous. They are gluttonous pigs. Look at that's a leaper lizard hanging out of his mouth and his tail hanging out of the other side of his mouth. They are gluttonous pigs, and they're not very bright. Smallmouth, as my river is polluted with smallmouth. On the St. Joe, a bad day, a day that is, I come home and I tell my wife it was a terrible day, is a day that we catch 30, and that's no joke. It is that good of a smallmouth fishery. On the Joe, we can do basically one of three things. We can go after numbers for the day, and the size will be a little smaller. We might not catch as many, or we can do somewhere in folks after a steelhead season. They just want to go catch fish. So typically what I'm on is the stretch that we catch the most fish, but they're not as large, which is fun. People having fun. This reel to match part. I know we talked about this again too tonight. Aren't steelhead. They're not going to swim 100 yards down the river like a steelhead will. They'll make their head jump, but they're not going to test a 100-yard run. However, when you hook that giant 23-inch pounder that you've never seen before and you dreamt about your whole life, you spent a little money. We use Lamson. And the reason we use Lamson is because I spent $100 on a reel. So reel to match typically means you'll be fine, and you probably lifetime is the one you really want to land, and you want to know when you system that is not going to fail you. So reel to match to me, anywhere in that lineup is the same drag system. As far as fly lines go, we use two different lines. If we're throwing streamers, bait fish streamers, then I'm throwing a sinking tip. The rest of the gamut, whether we're throwing leaper or dry flies, then we're using a scientific angler forward 5-weight line, floating line, or we're using a sinking line if we're fishing. So that's kind of our setup of 2X or odd X tippet, depending on what I'm throwing. Again, when I'm throwing something on a sink tip, I don't I pull a straight section, 3 feet of mono. We will see. So the St. Joe is stocked with more steelhead than any river in the United States. So that is a stock. And after those fish are stocked, they I have literally seen it looked like it was boiling from smallmouth, basically hurting these poor just going to town. I've watched them and wait until they flop back into the river. I caught a 15-inch. Well, I didn't. One of my clients caught a 15-inch smallmouth, not a big smallmouth, a 15-incher, and he spit up 5 of those in my boat. When they stock those steelhead, crazy. So in the spring, right? Last week, the smallmouth fishing was pretty good. I should say a week and a half ago, when the water was up in the 55, 56 degree area. Now, 8, so it's slowed back down, which is fine for me because we want to fish steelhead right now anyway. But if you want to fish smallies, when that water warms back up here soon, I would go hit some smallies. Kevin asked, you mentioned Lamson a couple times. Is there a specific series of reel? So what we use, Kevin, is the remix, which is the second step up. Here's the deal again with Lamson. You can go all the way down to the bottom end of Lamson's price point, which is the liquid. So basically, you're getting a great. Find the reel that looks nice that you like to look at. Find the reel that weighs the right amount and it feels good on your rod, and go with it. Spend the money on a guru, to be honest with you, but I probably would for myself. I think I've got a number of gurus, speedsters. I think those are the 2 main reels that I have, other than our client reels that we loan out. Those are all Lamson Remix. So the Remix is a machined cage with a cast spool. So the spool is cast, so it saves you a little bit of money. The liquid, which is a step below, everything's cast. The spool and the cage are both cast. So, but that's what we use. It's the Lamson Remix. But anywhere in there, any of the Lamson line has a great drag system, a wonderful drag system. After they get off of the white streamers, so basically from now until mid-September, when we stop guiding smallmouth, it is great fishing the entire time of what flies we're using and where we're finding the fish. But there's no really downtime from now on. It's on for smallmouth. But typically about June, we start fishing crayfish patterns. Honest to God, I throw 2 crayfish patterns and that's it. I could basically, I should have brought my smallmouth box in to show you. I carried, I don't know how many dozens and dozens and dozens of types of for smallmouth, but it is a lot. I basically use 5 patterns and that's it. And that's from now until late September. I don't mess around a whole lot with patterns. When it that's it. That one and that one. Now, I want to give you a couple things about crawdad patterns. We see often in the fly shops or in a magazine, we look at flies and they're like, it looks just like a crawdad. It's got the little pinchers hanging off, and you're like, oh my God, that's it right there. That's the best crawdad pattern I've ever used in my life. And you throw it in the water, and it sits there, and you move it, you don't catch anything. And you're like, God, that thing looks just like a crawdad. Why am I not catching fish on it? Here's the problem with a lot of those patterns. I always call it the crucified crawdad, because those pinchers don't move. They basically stick out. They're like this, sticking straight out. This pattern, if you think about the way a crawdad swims when it's fleeing, it puts its pinchers together, right? The claws come together. That's what that is to a smallmouth right there. All of this stuff, that's the tentacles. That's the legs, the gills moving. Okay? Orange, brown, orange and olive always work well. Don't ask me what the yellow rubber legs, what they think that is. I have no idea, but I do know this. I've tried a lot of different colors of legs on that pattern. That is the best color. That is, so what that is that's a 9672 mustad on a size 4 with a 1/4 inch cone, hot orange cone, brown marabou, brown hackle, brown chenille, and then this is kind of the fluff at the end of the hackle, and with yellow legs. That's it. And it's heavily weighted, 0.30 lead. All my flies are heavily weighted, which I'll talk about in a second. Yeah, Eric says that pattern's killer. It is a killer. That is a killer pattern. So is that one. That's it. Those are the only two I use for crawdads. All right. So this is the type of fishing we're doing with our crawdad. What we're looking for are rock walls. So the St. Joe, years or almost 100 years now. So the bottom of this river is littered with rubble. So that's the type of water we're looking to fish. If you think about the way a crawdad swims, and I'm not saying you can't catch smallmouth on a crawdad that you strip an arm length strip, but a crawdad naturally does not swim 3 feet at a time. It knows if it swims from here to all the way over here, it's probably getting eaten. So what it does is it swims from rock A to rock B to rock C, and it's darting the whole time, right? It knows if it swims from rock A to rock Z, it's going to be eaten. So a crawdad naturally swims in short movements. So his hand, look at the short little strips. Pop, 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 pop. We back that up. Watch him here. Pop, pop, pop. Watch the line tighten up right there. Fish on. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking, if you fish smallmouth with me, you go to sleep at night. Maybe you're dreaming, but it's probably a nightmare of me saying pop, 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 pop. Because that's the cadence that we want to fish a crawdad pattern with. Is short little 2-3 inch strips. So Bart, if you're on there, this is you, buddy. You guys, this will bring back some memories. So Bart's first cast is a little short. Second cast is a little longer, but still a little short of the wall. Third cast, boom. Bart's perfect with the short strips. Watch the line just rise up right here, right there. Fish on. So these fish are going to eat coming out from the bank. So we really don't feel them eat. We see the line kind of tighten up. This was one of the fastest smallmouth I've ever seen. That thing, when it came from the right side of the boat to the left, it was like something was really chasing it. That was a good day, Bart. That was a good day. So that's what we're looking for when we're fishing those crayfish patterns. We want to make sure that we imitate the movement, what we're trying to imitate, not like, and not what it looks like dry in a fly box or in a magazine. We want it to look real when it's under the water. We want it to act real, and the way we make it act, we'll talk tomorrow in the trout program about presenting cat midges and mayflies and stoneflies the correct way, because they don't all act the same. They all act a little different. And so tomorrow in the trout program, we'll kind of go through that. But fish patterns. I doubt there's anybody on here that says, I'd rather catch fish on a crawdad. Once June 15th hits and the river's super clear and warm, I start fishing a lot of poppers. White, I fish olive. Those two go-to colors on the Joe for poppers. Shoot, as clear as the river already is, if the water was warm enough, we could be catching them on poppers now. The St. Joe right now is as clear as it is during the peak of the summer. It's unbelievable how clear it is. All right, popper fishing. We present the fly a little differently than you would on a pond or on a lake because we have moving water, number one. Number two, smallmouth are very curious creatures. Okay, so what we're looking to do here is we're casting down. We're casting downstream just a little bit, and we're mending to move the fly. So we just mend to move the fly. We want a little slack. What we're looking for, if you watch that fly, it's sitting still in between each mend. Let's bring our attention back here because this is where the action is going to be. So we just mend it to move it. Cast about 45 degrees downriver, perfect angle. Mend, it sits still or it floats with the current. If we strip it, it's going to drag the whole time. Watch it right here. You're going to see a little bit of bubble right there. Now he eats it. That fish sat under that for a second. It hit the water until the time it ate it. Fish ate popper very slowly. This one, you'll see, we pop it, pop, you'll be able to see the fish right underneath it. Right there. It's trying so hard not to eat it. It can't help itself. And that's what smallmouth do. They sit under it, and they look at it, and they go down, and they try so hard not to eat it. The longer you don't move it, the better chance you have of getting to eat it. So my philosophy on popper fishing is fish it very slowly. If you have the fish's attention, if he's looking at it, don't move the fly. Pop it to get his attention again. Not a hard pop. Just a small little twitch, little pop. And as soon as he puts back up, don't move that thing again until he puts his head back down. If he puts his head back down, patience. And it's a game that you'll win if you do it right. More time, what you end up with. Watch this fish again underneath that popper. You can see it already. It's under it. I stand up. It's still under it. It's still under it. And eat. That's how we fish poppers. And it's a productive way of fishing poppers. And the longer we can get that fly to sit still, the bigger the fish get. All right, some F-rods. This is the side of my boat to kind of give you the idea of how many boat here. I mean, there are thousands of F-rods through there. Again, and at that point, we can do some real, true popper fishing, but we can throw dry flies. However, the negative with the F-rod is that it's a nighttime thing. We sulfur hatch, which is a little more, and that's a little, which is a little more, you can see. You don't have to guess. The best dry fly August and September, when the fish sit underneath in crystal clear water, and they the beetles that are getting washed into the river, and they literally will line up and just munch away. I've got video. Could not find it on my new computer to save my life, and I didn't see it on. I don't know what happened to it, but I'm going to keep looking, and if I do find it, I'll send a message out. But it absolutely is unbelievable. They will. To me, it's like fishing cutthroats on the Yellowstone. You're looking up the boat, watching fish submerge just under the water level, maybe 1.5 feet. It's crystal clear water. You throw and suck it in like a trout. It's unbelievable. Are we looking for slower current or pools, maybe? Fishing, Tommy. So let's just go for rock spot where there isn't any current. More drop-offs and logs to fish them over. If I'm fishing I'm sorry, for a lot of logs and a lot of quick drop-offs off the bank. Any of that type of water can hold fish. Basically, what I do, and during the summer, I spend pretty much every day, and I just kind of get those. But if a bank is holding, finding out what fly they're going to eat for the day. Things like fishing for cutties on the Yellowstone. If you find these smallmouth and they're nice, hanging out just under the surface, eating up there with it, I'm telling you, it is as cool. It's crystal clear, and you're just a bait fish run. So we get alewives, we get shad, all the bait fish are getting active, and we go back to a lot of white streamers. And white's not the only color of streamer. It's about the only color of streamer. It's yellow, we'll throw black, but white is tough. I don't typically like talk a lot of numbers, although I already spilled the beans on what a bad day on this river is. And it really is. Bad day is 30 smallmouth. I mean, it's a phenomenal fish. The log, boom, fish on. So this is Jake, part of the boat. I don't know who's fishing in the back. Hopefully Jake won't let you know who's fishing in the back, but whoever it is, they already missed one fish while Jake is fighting that. Right off the log. So you asked about what type of water. These are all submerged logs. They're strike 2. These are all submerged logs in about 3 feet of water right through here. So while Jake is fighting that one, this guy up here, he's not going to tell anybody who it is. All right, it's me. I've already missed 2 stinking fish while he's fought his. I think I'm going to miss one on that cast. Yeah, there's strike 3. It was a foul ball, though, I think. So he literally is just getting ready to throw his back. I've already missed 3. There's 4. There's 5. I finally connect. That's how good this river can be. And literally while Jake was fighting one fish, I missed 5. And they weren't all the same fish. We covered too much water. It is a phenomenal smallmouth fishery. When it is on, I don't think like it. It's unbelievable smallmouth fishery. Fish aren't as big. A bad day on that section is like 45 fish. We can go to a section where they're going to be a lot bigger, but we're in a good day is going to be. And then we can find a section kind of in between those two. And this one ate a hopper going right down that foam line. So that was right. I think that one was 21, if I remember right. But literally, we sight fished it. It was just under the surface, about a foot, and we threw a hopper in front of it, and it really rose up like a, just like a cutthroat does, Eric. I mean, it was. And this fish did 21 and a half, and it did exactly what I've been telling you. It sat under the popper, and it came up, and it went back down, and then he popped it, and it went back down. And then he popped it again, and it came up, and he fished it as well as anybody could. I don't think I would have been able to fish it as well as he did. I would have probably freaked out, popped it too hard, but he fished it absolutely perfectly. That's my son Dylan. I was so proud of him on that fish. That was awesome. That was his first fish, if I remember right, on a popper. Smallies. Sure, kayaks have used, anyway. It's just a little difficult because there's not a lot of wadeable water. You've got to find one of the slower sections and fish that so you can kind of, float and fish at the same time. But absolutely, Joe, way drug for fly fishing. So if you've got a buddy that you want to get into the sport of fly fishing, to me, Smallies and the Joe, it's the way to go. It's an easy technique. It's polluted with fish. And whether you do it right or you do it completely wrong, they're going to put a smile on your face. It's just that simple. It is an absolutely awesome experience. I mean, where else can you go with a kid, have fish jumping in the boat while his underwear's hanging out? That's my son Lucas. That was an awesome fish. He yanked that sucker right into the boat. Look at that. Yes. Success. Look at that smile. All right. What is it? April 20th. So you've had New Year's resolution made for about 4.5 months now, right? Well, hey, you can't go to the gym anymore, right? You've been eating junk food for the past month because you've been locked in your house. Everybody's put on 20 pounds. So let's find a new Year's resolution. So an April 20th resolution. Take that you're going to take a kid fishing this summer. You're going to get the neighbor kid, your cousin's kid. Sorry, your uncle's kid. That'd be your nephew. Get a kid out fishing this year. We have to pass on the traditions that we love to these kids. And so few kids are getting outdoors. And it's not about keeping me busy. It's not about keeping fly shops busy. It's about one thing. If this generation right here, if she doesn't fall in love with this river and these fish, who's going to be there to protect this river and those fish? We have to get this generation with all this, because otherwise no one's going to be there to protect it. We've got to make sure that we have somebody there to protect it. And that's why we've got to. Plus, it's just nice to have another fish. Just that simple. And when you're on the river, there's no crowd. There's no place better for social distancing than getting your butt out on. staying away from people. Look, we all got into the sport for one thing, and that was to get away from the rat race. So get away from the rat race and go out and hit it. All right. Thank you so much. What questions? Any questions for me for what we went over? I went 5 months. It's an awesome experience. Says he can't wait for his kids are old enough till they're old. I get that question a lot about kids and how old they need to be. I'll say a couple different things about that. To fly fish on their own for smallmouth, I typically that 8 is about as young as you want them to be. But you don't have to just take a kid fly fishing. We can do one of two things. We can take them out with a small light spinning rod, cast, hook the fish, and hand them the rod. They can do it that way too. It's just getting the kids out, getting them. It's what we love, showing them why we love what we love. That's about fly fishing, and that's what I do as a guy is fly fish. Yeah, just getting them out on the water. That's the important thing. Yeah, that's the important thing. Do the crayfish patterns ride hook up? Yes, they do ride hook up. With the Garrett, I don't know whether it rides. So typically have any issues with snags. Where I'm typically fishing those, even though weighted fly, and a lot of times we had a 3/0 sinker. Our river, about 2 feet off of the bank, drops to about 4 feet. Unless we get it right on the bank and we get hooked up, we're not getting hooked up on the bottom. Yes, what are the other 3 flies you use? So basically, here are the flies I use: olive or yellow or black, but typically a white. So an animal, it's called the animal. That's it. Patterns. I use a popper, and then at times in the late fall we'll throw some terrestrials. There is another pattern that I throw that's a real. I've never even come up with the name. It's a real small light white minnow, and I designed that and kind of fish it real slowly. When the water's hot and the water's clear and it's bright in the middle of the sunny day and they're not eating poppers, where we really wanted to popper fish, and so therefore crawdads, then I'll throw that fly on a sink tip and fish, and that's been a real productive fly for us. I'll try to see if I wish I'd have brought my box and I could have showed that one to you. But I mean, Eric, do you have videos of the crawdad flies? Yeah, Jack, if you go to our questions over here. All right. White streamer you showed. Stan asked, what was the white streamer? Crawfish pattern. So the 2 crawdad patterns we use, Dan, it's a leaper lizard and a smallmouth bugger. So let me back up and I'll show those to you real quick. The streamers. John asked, do you have any videos of the streamers? I don't. Like I said, and I've shown a lot of flies during this thing that I typically don't let out in public just to show them. I'm pretty secretive about most of my flies, John. So some of them, this one is a leaper lizard. This one is on there. But that big streamer, this is the other one, Stan. This is a smallmouth bugger. So if you want the recipe, give me a call or shoot me a text or something. I can get you the recipe for that one. But the leaper lizard is on our Facebook. I mean, our YouTube channel. I'll put that on our Facebook in the morning too, so everybody can see that. Dylan, thanks, man. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I said tomorrow will be trout. So trout is something that I kind of like my streamers. I don't talk a whole lot about. It's kind of my baby. And where we fish trout has been something that is kind of my place to go and be by myself and not have that I kind of keep in my back pocket for my. But hey, we're gonna let it out of the bag a little bit. We're gonna be talking about brown trout on a couple different streams. Some hatches. We're gonna go through some flies, some techniques, some water. Hopefully it's enjoyable. Hopefully tonight was enjoyable. Before you go, make sure before you put your phone down, it is an unbelievable organization that needs your life while you're changing others' lives. Thanks, Garrett. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. 3 trout tomorrow, long nose gar the next night, and then talk gear on Thursday. And that will be a night we talk rods, reels, fly boxes, everything basically that we use. We're going to show it, and there'll be maybe some things if you want to know too. Thanks, Keith. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, buddy. Tyler, haven't heard of it. I will let my pass it on to there. Oh man, Tyler, that would be awesome, buddy. That'd be awesome. Thanks for not telling everybody that was me missing all those. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Craig. Boy, Craig, the Joe is awfully clear. It's about it's pretty average right now. Clear for spring. It is crystal clear. Middle of the summer, so clear. You bet, Robert. I'm glad to see. I'm so glad to see that you're getting lizard. It's a killer fly. They love it. I've thought with that fly, and I have caught carp on it. We took those legs off, or maybe cut them a little. Carp fly up there too. Let me know if you use